Welcome back. I'm Tedward, and today, thanks to Bond Group in Waltham, Massachusetts, we're revisiting the entry-level DB11. This is a 2018 Aston Martin DB11 V8. So instead of a twin-turbo V12 from Aston Martin, this has a 4-liter AMG engine with hot V, meaning it's got those turbos wedged up between the cylinder banks. So pretty snappy, responsive, rear-wheel drive. But the DB11 is a really important car for Aston Martin because it was the departure from the VH platform. The VH platform we know well because we've driven pretty much everything on that platform on this channel. We've got DB9, DBS, Vanquish. What's the other one that's not that? The Virage. Sometimes I forget about the Virage. But anyway, the DB11 comes along and takes Aston Martin into the 21st century finally, which is really cool. And it's a beautiful, handsome vehicle with all the trimmings to support its exclusivity. So first, I just want to show you this interior because some people don't do Aston interiors so well. This is great. Of course, we've got the swan doors, so those go up. Now, these have little pistons in them, so you've got to always make sure that you're maintaining those because it is uncool when those pistons fail and the door slams shut. But in here, look at this beautiful black leather with the brown contrast. So the brown in here, I really dig. I think this looks fantastic. That carries on to the roof. So this is where you get to play bespoke gentleman in your Aston because you really did get to deck these out however you'd like. And some were bad. Some people have terrible taste or just didn't understand how things were going to mix and match. And this is a great example of a car that was mixed and matched perfectly with two-tone leather and really beautiful wood trim with aluminum on the door handles and speaker grate. So good stuff here. My favorite part of this car is under the hood. I showed you this car years ago, but under here, under this great clamshell, you've got your 4-liter V8. You can see, I mean, it's an AMG engine. We've seen this in everything and all the things. It was final inspection by Matt Robbins. Hey, Matt, if you're out there, thanks for the hard work because this thing's still running nice. We like it. And it's wild because you get such a great view of all the suspension components. You can inspect things pretty easily with this clamshell. Really lovely stuff. The only issue with this is that it gets filthy because if you drive this in the rain, look, this is all exposed. It just coats all this underside of your clamshell bonnet with dirt and grime and things. So you do have to be a little attentive about that. But whatever, not the end of the world. You probably have someone else cleaning your vehicle if you're driving such a thing. But why would you choose the V8 over the V12? Well, there's a couple reasons. Number one, obviously price. It was cheaper, not cheap, but cheaper than a V12. But in addition to that, it's lighter. It had maybe even a couple 100 pounds lighter than the V12. I don't know. You can fact check me on that. But either way, look, this doesn't take up nearly as much room. There's tons of space in this engine bay, and that gives you a nice kind of weight distribution in this thing. So it'll probably handle a little better. Now, obviously, weight isn't the biggest deal in your DB11. It's still like a 3,800-pound car, but whatever. We can accept a lightweight any way it comes to us. But one of the coolest things about this car was the aerodynamics that Aston Martin integrated into this, because this actually goes all the way through into this trunk lid, and then there is a spoiler here, but not just this little rise out spoiler. It actually has kind of an air spoiler. I forget what they call it, but essentially using like ram air coming through there, it creates this little sort of aerodynamic spoiler with the air and channels that up. So it does help stabilize the car just using the air that it's cutting through. All right, but anyway, let's just go take it for a drive. This thing sounds great. It's getting a little cold out, and I've got heated seats, but watch this. Ready? The best part about this is you don't slam the clamshell shut. Let it do that, and it's soft close. Yes, that's the stuff. And real quick, easiest way to identify a V8 from a V12 DB11, these guys. If you've only got those two on the sides, you've got a V8. If you've got two extras in the middle, you've got a V12. Needs the additional cooling, I suppose. Now, I might be alone with this opinion, but I kind of think the V8 sounds a little better than the V12, but it's okay. Let's start it up. We've got our key down here, which we can just leave there, but I got to show you this great little electric situation here, so you can get into your little cubby under the armrest. God forbid that breaks, that'd be a pain. But anyway, start-stop button in the center, foot on the brake. it is really something when this thing starts. Everybody loves these 4 liters, and you know, they're used in everything from G63s to C63s to AMG GTRs. So it's a familiar sound to anyone in this game, in the sports car world, but it does sound pretty good and pretty nice coming out of this Aston. Double pane glass. This thing is really quiet to drive around, although there is road noise. We'll get there. We'll get there. Let's just pull away. We've got our 8-speed ZF doing all the work. So, you know, what's interesting about this car, it's an all-new platform kind of for Aston Martin at the time, but it's utilizing a lot of the things that Mercedes-Benz is using, and I think that was a good idea on the part of Aston Martin, just because, well, on their own, they don't have that much money to deal with kind of real fine-tuning and dialing in, so this car really works nicely. It does have variable suspension. We can change that here independently from our sport mode and stuff. You do have a suspension button here, and then your kind of transmission and engine settings there. I'm going to gently get it off the line. It's 30. Oh, start, stop, come on. Let's see how she gets off the line. Okay, that's a little baby bit of throttle because it's 34 degrees, okay? I just gave it like 25% and it's already spinning. So we're hitting traction control. It is not summer anymore, guys. We can't do like actual 0 to 60s anymore, unfortunately. And that's okay. This is a gentleman's cruiser. When we get out to the highway, we'll get the revs up a little bit, but it is kind of funny to see that. So if you see what I mean, there is a bit of road noise in this cabin. Let's see, we'll put it in sport mode, get it back in drive, try one of these again. Just gingerly get it off the line. So sure, this may be the entry level. This is the cheap DB11. However, it still boogies and has tons of torque, and enough torque that it's spinning the tires at like 40 miles an hour with just a hair of throttle. So you still need to be attentive. You're definitely not in a position where you're going to say, oh, I don't have the fast one. No, every one of these is the fast one. It's okay if you don't have the V12. Aston Martin just came out with the replacement for the DB11, aptly named the DB12. And as far as I can tell, it looks like the same car. It's really not very different. It's not a departure from this. It's kind of a more modern, stylized version of DB11. And look, I haven't driven it. I can't really speak to it. I'm sure there's like improvements and things. It's a little disappointing. Aston's a weird company, you know? The company exists, or it seemingly exists now, to fund and feed an F1 team. And, you know, it's not going so hot for them. I guess Alonso's doing pretty good. But Stroll, who knows? It's a bummer because, like, Aston is one of those brands that you would hate to see die. Like, it can't die. It is such a legacy historically in the automotive world that it's unfortunate when things go away. Like, I'm bummed that Pontiac is gone. I'm even bummed that Oldsmobile is gone. We don't want to see Aston become an extinct brand, but what we're seeing is the cars that are coming out, they're not really beating the competition. You have to be an Aston buyer to buy an Aston. You don't go in and cross shop between Porsche, Ferrari, and Aston and end up with an Aston, because you'd probably end up with a Porsche or Ferrari if you were going by your pros and cons list and you were really carefully looking. You buy an Aston Martin because Aston Martin is your vibe. That's the reason. And it's cool. They are cool. I love a DBS. DBS is a beautiful car. DBS Volante, DBS Superleggera, DBS Volante. Oof, what a beautiful car. What a great way to show up somewhere. And that's the thing, is everybody looks at you in this car differently, because in a Ferrari they have an assumption, in a Porsche they have an assumption, in an Aston Martin they're like, who are you? You must be a sophisticated gentleman to have spent that money on that vehicle. And because most of the, how do I say this nicely? Most of the logical folks, most of the people who are shopping with their intelligence are likely not buying Aston Martins. It means that the people who are interesting. We want to know why you've bought this Aston Martin. What is the thing about this that appeals to you? And what do you know that I don't know? And these are still fun cars. They're great to drive. They handle lovely. The steering's actually really good. They're fast. They're stylish. They depreciate. So if you bought one new and it was like 300 grand, well, I mean, who knows what this is going to sell for and bring a trailer, but we'll know what they lost on their vehicle if they were, perhaps the first owner. That's good for you on the secondhand market. They just take some time and attention. In fact, a friend of mine, Captain Crankshaft, my buddy Jackson, and his co-host Will, they just bought a Vantage, an Aston Martin Vantage that was incredibly cheap and run down, and they're fixing it up on their own, essentially, with the help of Farley at Eurotechnatic and some other folks along the way. But the reality is, buying a cheap Aston Martin can be a daunting prospect, because it is usually expensive to replace things on them. They are not easy, and if you're in the Aston world, you understand what it takes to really run one properly. So just make sure you've got the cash to back it up if you find a sweetheart deal on something that you can barely afford, because you might be able to afford the entry level, but you may not be able to afford the maintenance and actually keeping it on the road. That could be nightmarish for you. Entry level, my ass. This thing screws. This is fast, man. You can feel the whole rear end wiggling around, trying to put that torque down. And like I said, it's a cold day, but we've got a little bit of speed on our side now. Yeah, man. We're doing that in relative comfort. Suspension-wise, it's not teeth-chatteringly stiff. This allows you to drive in comfort. The road noise, I don't blame that much, because it's a sports car. It's a sports Grand Tour. That's fine. You should probably have some minor sacrifice and inconvenience if you're going to have a car like this. So if a little bit of road noise from the tires is that, well, so be it. That's okay. I'm going to get off here, make sure nobody tries to sneak up on us on the right. Prius making a late exit on that one, but hey, we saw it coming, so we're good to go. But look, we can talk numbers all day. They don't matter, man. Like, does this car make you feel good? If it does, then it's for you. That's all that matters. So that's gonna do it on a little revisit to the entry-level DB11. Thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Thanks to Bond Group for tossing the keys to this British monster. You know, for an entry level, this thing really wants to tear the tires off the rear end. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one.